Welcome to Australia Explained. Let's talk about how Australian politics actually works. Have you ever wondered who makes which rules and why they get to make them? Or who receives your taxes and how they decide what to spend your money on? In this video, we're going to talk about the three levels of government that exist in Australia, what rules each of them make, and why sometimes it feels like nobody's fixing the potholes. Australia has three main levels of government: councils, state or territory governments, and the federal government in Canberra. Each one is supposed to have its own job, but the lines can blur, and the bigger government grows, the more confusion and frustration creeps in. Back in the 1800s, Australia was made up of 6 British colonies: New South Wales, Tasmania, Western Australia, South Australia, Victoria and Queensland, each doing its own thing. They operated independently, each with their own laws, parliament and a governor, until they voluntarily united. On January 1st, 1901, they joined together to form the Commonwealth of Australia. That's when our constitution came in. There's another video on that. It was a mammoth task. And it formed the big rule book that says what laws the federal government handles and what's left to the states. The idea was to keep power spread out, to prevent concentration and abuse of power, to protect individual liberty and the rule of law, and to ensure stable, accountable government in a federal system. Local councils handle roads, rates, rubbish, and other local services, but they answer to state governments. States run schools and hospitals, public transport, courts and state laws, and they follow some federal rules. The federal government takes care of defence and immigration, Medicare and taxation, and national laws and trade. Each level feeds into the next, with states controlling councils and influencing local life. Let's start at the ground level, your local council. Council is supposed to handle the stuff that touches your life. Think local roads, rubbish collection, libraries, community centres, parks and planning approvals, although in some states planning approvals are being more and more controlled or influenced by state governments rather than local communities. More on that in another video. Councils are funded mainly by your rates, money you pay if you own a home in that area. They also take money from you through fees and charges for things like parking, planning applications, and facilities hire. And finally, they get money through the state and federal government funding streams, which are called grants. Now, most people believe councils should stick to the basic stuff. Make sure that the roads are safe and free of potholes, collect rates fairly to pay for things like the shared roads, rubbish collection, hard waste removal, or local library services. Unfortunately, you'd be hard-pressed to find a single council in all of Australia that just does these basic services really well. And that's because their priorities and focus drift. You might notice the potholes are getting worse, while councillors debate which very expensive art projects or symbolic gestures they're going to give their attention to. It's not that those things are bad, not at all. It's just a question of appropriateness. Should your council be getting involved in things that aren't really relevant to the good order of the neighbourhood, especially when they can't get the basics right? Imagine living in an area where your council spends money and energy to voice an opinion about foreign affairs matters that they have no control over. Or deciding to spend your ratepayer money that could fund a local footy oval's care and maintenance for 5 years on a rainbow-coloured pedestrian crossing. Meanwhile, you're still dodging the same pothole every morning. It's enough to drive anyone crazy. Each state and territory has its own parliament and premier, or in places like the Northern Territory and ACT, chief ministers. Like councils, they have a set of core services that we expect them to manage, and to manage well. Things like hospitals, public schools, public transport, main roads and highways, the local police force and the energy supply. And don't forget the state parks and forests. These are huge responsibilities, and they have big budgets to match. Similar to councils who have devoted their time outside of their core services, some states are also falling into this trap. For example, in recent years, the Victorian Parliament has devoted significant time, legislation, and taxpayer money to funding ideological and symbolic initiatives, like gender identity policies across state institutions and schools, and making international political statements, which is a federal issue. All the while, core state services like public hospitals, public transport reliability, road maintenance, and energy affordability have visibly deteriorated. The result is a growing perception that state priorities are being driven more by party ideology than by the practical delivery of essential services that Victorians rely on every day. But it's not all bad. Tasmania has largely avoided ideological overreach, maintaining relatively stable governance by keeping its focus on core services like hospitals, infrastructure, and cost of living pressures rather than the cultural war symbolism. The ACT and the WA have some of the lowest recorded potholes and damaged roads, so they could be doing something right too. A good government is one with the right checks and balances, with a steadfast focus on keeping its core services strong, well-funded, and operating efficiently. At the top of the political hierarchy in Australia is the federal government, which has a Parliament House in Canberra. It's made up of two houses: the House of Representatives, where government is formed, and the Senate, which reviews laws. The Prime Minister and members of Parliament, called MPs, work in the House of Representatives, while senators work in the Senate. Think of the two houses like this. One forms the government of the day and writes the laws, where the Prime Minister works, while the other house makes sure that those laws are fair and reasonable for the country. The federal Parliament handles the big stuff: defence, trade, immigration, foreign policy, taxes, and national laws. These are the laws that everyone in the entire country must follow. It also dishes out money to the states, which then filters down to councils, meaning decisions made federally can ripple right through to your street. 150 members of Parliament sit in the House of Representatives, each one of them representing a single electorate, which is a defined geographical area of Australia, each one with roughly the same size population, which provides true representative of voices across the whole of Australia. There are 76 senators in the Australian Senate, and unlike MPs, they represent the entire state or territory that they come from, not individual electorates. We get 12 senators for each state and 2 senators for each territory. Because senators represent the entire state that they come from, they could live anywhere within that state, and they need to be across all issues affecting their state communities, not just the area where they live. To learn more why each house is a different colour or how a bill becomes law, check out our other videos on Australia Explained. In theory, the 3 levels of government are a simple chain of responsibility. In practice, that can get messy, and it is compounded by politicians who pork barrel, commit gerrymandering, or preference harvesting. There's another video on what those are. Some even run scare campaigns, misleading advertising. They promise overload or suppress votes through bureaucratic barriers. None of this sounds particularly democratic, does it? When funding overlaps, policies contradict, and local priorities get drowned out, the basics get left behind. And you're left wondering who's actually responsible for what, and why is no one fixing those damn potholes? When you know how the system works, you can hold the right people accountable. If a decision feels wrong, or you're not happy with how your local council or state parliament is handling something, by watching Australia Explained videos, you'll know how to make your voice heard. Government works best when it is transparent, focused, and remembers who it's supposed to serve: you. So that's Australia's political system in a nutshell. Councils handle the community basics, states manage major services. The federal government handles national issues, things that affect us all, including national sovereignty. Each level has power, money, and responsibility, and your voice and vote keeps them in check. The more we understand how it's supposed to work, the easier it is to notice when it doesn't. Thanks for watching, and next time you see a pothole, you'll understand a bit more why it hasn't been fixed. If you want more videos that help you understand how government works, where your money goes, and why decisions are made the way they are, please support our work by liking, giving us a follow, or subscribing. Your voice shapes this channel, so drop a comment below and tell us what you want explained next. Local politics, estate decision, taxation, housing, migration, government powers, or anything else happening in Australia right now. This is your country, your community, and your future. And the more we learn together, the more empowered we all become. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video, right here on Australia Explained.